Blessings in the name of the Lord Jesus. Welcome to Paraclet TV, making disciples through the power of the Holy Spirit. Our intended learning objective for this video is at the end of the session, 100% of the students with 100% level of proficiency will be able first to discuss the different theories about motivation and second to test these theories. The first theory about motivation is the so-called attribution theory. And when we speak about attribution theory, the theory statement is we always attribute our successes or failures or other events to several factors. So when we succeed in our lives, we usually have things or reasons why we succeed, and these are called attributes. And when we fail to something that we want to achieve, then there are also reasons or rationale why we fail, and these are called attributes. Say for example, a student is so popular in the school, it can be attributed to if his teacher is the principal or if he is good in an athletic game or when he is intelligent. Those are the attributes. It can also be when you have a very good economic status and you are rich. It can be attributed to the wealth of the parents, or when you are poor, you can also attribute that when your father has a vice. There are factors that vary attribution level, and these are the three factors. We have the locus, second, stability, and third, controllability. When we speak about locus, this is also similar with place. Example, when you have good grades, it can be attributed to an internal factors, your ability, and of course your hard work. These are internal factors where you receive good grades. But externally, you have good grades because of the teacher's performance, because the teacher uses a very effective strategy, or the school has complete facilities. We call that as external locus. The second one is stability. Of course, the opposite of stability is instability. Say for example, a student has a poor eyesight. It can be attributed to the genes of the parents because his parents have also poor eyesight, so that is called stable. But when your poor eyesight can be attributed to always watching TV and always saving your computer games, most of your time are spent here, we can call that as unstable. And of course, to make it stable, you have to discipline watching TV, the time of watching TV, as well as discipline yourself to a minimum time for computer games. Then the third is controllability. And the opposite of controllability is of course uncontrollability. Say for example, a student is performing very good in the class. It can be the controllable there is you have a very good study habits, or you always do your assignment and you always prepare yourselves, preparing all the things that you need in the class before you go to the school. It is uncontrollable when your poor performance is caused by the character of the teacher, or when the teacher is not using an effective teaching method. You cannot control that because the control lies on the hands of the teacher. Now, in attribution theory, these are the things that you have to remember. There are factors in attribution theory that must be remembered. The first one, it is thought that students are more likely to experience intrinsic motivation if they attribute their educational results to internal factors that they can control. Example of this is the amount of effort that the student gives to perform in the class, or the being responsible is also an intrinsic motivation, because he knows the reason why he must perform better in the school, so that in the future he will also have a good future or bright future and have a good occupation. So those are called intrinsic motivation. Second, motivation tends to increase when students attribute failure to lack of effort, because effort can be controlled. So it is very good that the students knows the reason why he is not performing well, because of a very low motivation, and we expect that learner will really improve himself, his motivation, and looking at the reason why he is failing in most of the academic activities, he has to change it, because he can control himself. Motivation tends to decrease when students attribute failure to uncontrollable causes like lack or ability. Okay, then the next one, people tend to attribute their successes to internal causes. Example of internal causes: high ability, hard work, and of course their failure is attributed to external causes like lack of good behavior, or always looking at that the mistake is at the side of the students, or their parents are not encouraging them. Next theory is the self-efficacy theory. And what is self-efficacy theory? It is high sense of competence. It is a belief that one has necessary capability to perform a task, fulfill role expectations, or meet a challenging situation successfully. When a student believes that they have the ability to perform learning activities successfully, they are more likely intrinsically motivated to do such learning activities. So it is very good that the learner must have that very positive attitudes, must know his ability, so that when he knows his ability and he has of course a positive attitudes, those intrinsic motivators for himself will of course make this self-efficacy theory through. There are examples of self-efficacy enhancing strategies for a students to always perform better and make himself effective or efficient. These are now the strategies that he has to do. One, make sure students master the basic skill. So this is the responsibility of the teacher to look into that the needed skills or the prerequisite skills are already satisfied before going to a higher level of competence or skill. Students must be helped to make noticeable progress on difficult tasks. So when there is a difficult task that is given by the teacher must be there to facilitate, to always assist the student, so that he will improve his self-efficacy. Next, communicate confidence in students' abilities through both words and actions. So the teacher as well as the parents must not be selfish in giving praises, in giving rewards, so that the students will always be encouraged. So even a little performance or improvement to a pupil or to a learner must always be noticed by the teacher or by the parents. So next, self-efficacy enhancing strategies, expose them to successful peers. So the peers are very important. The quality of the peers have something to do with the motivational level of a certain learner. So always, as teachers, always partner the low learners to slow learners to the fast learners, and non-performing pupils must always be paired to a highly performing student so that they will always be performing better. It's good to have that strategy. Now, there are also the difference between the high self-efficacy learner and the low self-efficacy learner. Let us compare them now. Now, with the aspect of task orientation, the high self-efficacy learner accept challenging tasks while the low self-efficacy learners avoid challenging tasks. Next, about the effort that is given, the high self-efficacy learners expend high effort when faced with challenging tasks. They will have an extra time to study. They will, of course, ensure the needed materials before they do something because they always give high effort. The opposite of that is characterized to a low self-efficacy learner. About the level of persistence, the high self-efficacy learner persists when goals aren't initially reached. They always persevere until they reach their goal or they do the task, while the low self-efficacy learners, they give up when goals aren't initially reached. These students are always good in the start, but they will not finish their project. Example of that. Then about the beliefs, the high self-efficacy learners believe they will succeed. They control stress and anxiety when goals aren't met, and they believe they are in control of their environment. While the opposite of that are the low efficacy learners. Low efficacy learners focus on feelings of incompetence. I cannot do it. Experience anxiety and depression. They are always low in energy and believe they are not in control of their environment. Next, in the aspect of strategy, the influence of self-efficacy and motivation, they discard unproductive strategies. When they know that they cannot do that in a certain strategy, they look for an effective strategy in doing a certain task. But a low self-efficacy learners, they always persist with unproductive strategies. And the last aspect to differentiate a high to a low self-efficacy learner is in their performance. The high self-efficacy learners perform higher than low efficacy students of equal ability, while the low self-efficacy learners perform lower than high efficacy student of equal ability. Next theory is the self-determination theory. And the theory statement, when students have a sense of self-determination, they believe that they have some choice and control regarding the things they do and the direction they live. And most of these students that we say they have a self-determination, they are capable of directing themselves. They can schedule of the review, they can schedule of when they are going to watch movies or watch television, they schedule most of the time how much will be spent for playing computer games. And the following are the indicators of self-regulation, because when an individual has a self-determination, he usually have his self-regulation. And these are the following indicators when a learner can regulate himself. 1, ability to set a standard for himself. The standard depends upon the learner. You can raise your standards, and I hope that you are raising your standards, all of you who are listening to me now. Second indicator, monitor and evaluate one's own behavior against such standard. So you must know how to do the self-assessment, and because you know how to assess yourself if you are not doing it right, so you can have a personal intervention so that you can perform better in the next task that is given to you. A student who is capable of self-regulation is more likely to be more intrinsically motivated because he sets his goals and his standards. He monitors his progress. And there are, of course, processes involved in self-regulated learning. The first process is goal setting. So, a self-regulated student or learner has always a goal to reach. What is your goal in attending today's class? Is your goal is to really count how many times you are going to recite and to discuss a certain topic or a certain concept? Is it your goal today to perfect your exam or to have your pre-test? Is it your goal to spend about 2 hours in watching academic videos, something like that? Then have a plan. So a self-regulated individual or learner has always a plan. Next, you can control your attention. And next process, the application of learning strategies. If you are good in memorizing facts or principle early in the morning, as compared to when you are already busy and your parents are already awake during daytime, so you have to apply that learning activity or strategy to always wake up early so that you will have a very comfortable time of memorizing facts and principles. Then the next process is self-monitoring. So you have to always look at your performance. What is your grade in the first pre-test? What is your grade in the next weekly output? How is your score in your seat work? All of this must be monitored so that because it depends upon how regulated you are as a learner. So you must, of course, have this self-monitoring strategy or process. And the next one is, of course, self-evaluation. You have to really evaluate yourself, not only depending upon the score, but of course, you have to evaluate your attitude, your character, as well as your skills in doing psychomotor activities. The last theory about motivation is choice theory. It is a biological theory that suggests that we are born with specific needs that we are genetically instructed to satisfy. So when we say about choice theory, it depends upon what we have inherited from our parents, and their abilities might be our abilities, their talents might be our talents. And there are 4 basic psychological needs that must be satisfied regarding the choice theory. The first one is longing or connecting. Longing or connecting to friends, or connecting to your teachers, connecting to other learners. Next is the power or competence. You must know your ability so that you must also have that power to do it. And if you are good in numbers, you continue enriching yourself in mathematics. When you are good in verbal, you always excel and train yourself in verbal linguistic activities. And if you know that, that's good. It will really level up your motivation. You have the next psychological needs, freedom. Every person needs an amount of freedom. We call that as disciplined freedom. You know your limitations, but you must also use your freedom for the benefit of yourself and of course for the benefit of others. And of course, fun is the last psychological needs. You have to enjoy performing in the class, and when you are enjoying your academic activities, most often than not, you will be enjoying your next the future endeavor that you will be in. Share Jesus. Subscribe and share Paraclet TV. Go, go, go.